Well, here we are in the early morning, about to head off to New York from London. But unusually, when we're hopping over the pond, this time we're going to be going from London City Airport, which means an early morning ride on the Docklands Light Railway. There it is, looking absolutely delightful in the early morning sunshine. How we're getting there is on one tiny Airbus A318, and with it the unique BA1 flight number. It's in an all-business class configuration, shuttling between London City and New York JFK, with a refuelling stop in Shannon along the way.
Next stop will be London City Airport. Please leave the train to the right-hand side. Please make sure you take all your belongings with you when you leave the train. Next stop, London City Airport.
Now, the Docklands Light Railway chugs its way right to the platform here at London City Airport, and check-in is swift, even if travelling over to New York. Really quick, in fact. London City is designed for speedy departures. Even if you're checking in a bag on the JFK flight, you only need 20 minutes before the departure time. Then you can get straight through into the very busy, very cramped terminal. The downside is that British Airways doesn't have a business class lounge to hang out in. Instead, BA1 passengers get a free meal at the pilot's bar and kitchen. At least it is some variety on the Heathrow Galleries lounge, and the food, dare I say it, just a little bit better. It is also insanely busy, so I ended up wedged up at one end of the bar. Now, with a BA1 ticket, you get a hot breakfast and 3 drinks from the bar, although it was a little early even for me. And there's our first sight of the very small A318 for the long hop over the Atlantic. Doesn't it look small? Because it also took ages to get through security, I only had a few minutes at the pilot's bar before signs indicated I'd got 30 minutes before boarding. So I rushed along to the gate, expecting the usual crush and checks before a transatlantic flight. Now, instead of the vast crowds at the gate for a normal transatlantic flight, there were just 8 passengers milling about. It turned out that was the entire complement of the flight. For when asked if I could change seats, they not only obliged, but mentioned there were more deadheading crew on board than passengers. Absolutely amazing. Another fun thing you can do is walk to the aircraft and give it a good looking over. This particular aeroplane is entirely one of a kind. It's the only all-business class aircraft in British Airways fleet, as well as the only active BA A318. There used to be 2, but for now only G-EUNA is left. Boarding is very swift. All 8 of us walk to the aircraft.
Hello, how are you?
Good morning.
You good today?
Oh yes,
Welcome
all
aboard.
good, thank you.
Good morning to you. Thank you very much, sir. Welcome aboard. Hello, good morning.
Now, once I hopped up the steps, it was clear that this was an aircraft like no other. The crew gave me a personal greeting as I boarded the aircraft, and there we go. That's a cabin. Just 32 seats in total, arranged in a 2-2 configuration and spread between 8 rows. The seat is so unusual, with just one of British Airways aircraft fitted with it, it comes with its own manual. The seat controls can be found on the outside armrest of each seat and are pretty basic, but they still manage to get the seat into a variety of comfortable positions, including that fully flat bed.
I'm the captain today. My colleague on the flight deck first officer, Matthew Yao. Looking after your comfort and safety in the cabin today is Billy and his team of Jeffrey and Joey. Well, we are just about ready for departure now, slightly ahead of schedule. Unfortunately, we do have a little bit of frost on the aircraft wings this morning from its last flight inbound overnight from JFK. We do need to get this removed before we depart. The de-icing team are doing that for us as I speak. That should take just 5 minutes or so. So hopefully we'll still be ready for departure, just about on schedule in another 5 or 7 minutes from now. Short taxi out to departure runway here, taking off in a westerly direction before turning to the northwest towards Shannon on this first leg of your journey. Flight time today, 1 hour and 5 minutes to Shannon. Once in Shannon, you can expect to be on the ground there for about 45 minutes or so before departing again for JFK. Weather in Shannon on arrival, quite different to here in London. It's cloudy, chance of a little bit of rain, and temperature at the moment around about 4 degrees Celsius. So I'll speak to you again once we're airborne with a bit more information on our arrival time into Shannon. But for now, please make yourselves comfortable and enjoy the flight with us today.
British Airways bought 2 new Airbus A318 aircraft to serve the route when it started in 2007, and they were fitted with the unique seats. Indeed, there is that ottoman. The wine list looked very good too, and the cocktail list, well, it's something else. If you're actually planning to eat as well, starters were salad or cauliflower soup, main courses were lamb cutlet, chicken and rice, or mushroom bourguignon. It ended with creme fraiche, a watermelon, or the cheese board. But forget all that for the moment, because here we have Volume 1 of the wine list. Only 2 champagnes on board though, with a rosé of blended champers and a 50% Pinot Noir. 2 white wines plus 2 reds and a port. Yep, we might just survive this flight. Alas, it's not too extensive a wine list. That's to save weight on the aircraft, which is crucial, because takeoff restrictions at London City Airport mean that the A318 is not able to take off with full tanks of fuel. Instead, the A318 has to make a 40-minute refueling stop in Shannon. A plus point of this is that Shannon offers a US Customs and Immigration service, allowing passengers to clear the US border in Ireland and land in New York, JFK, as domestic passengers, saving a 3-hour queue at immigration. Although the flight takes an hour longer, it can take up to 6 hours if you take off that queue at JFK and the very fast check-in time. So here we go, about to use the entire length of the runway. Amazing really that a long-haul flight can take off from here, stuck in this dingy part of the Isle of Dogs. Just clearing the end of the runway. Docklands Light Railway is down there, looking resplendent, and also East London in the early morning sunshine. Now I've got to circle a bit to avoid Canary Wharf, it's quite high and right at the end of the runway, and gain enough height before heading northeast to Ireland. And time to settle in and enjoy that large flat bed and peruse the wine list to select what we're going to kick off with. Now the service itself is also rather special. Food comes from Doe & Co, but most vitally, the bar is open. Just look at that cocktail list, and that's simply on a short hop to Shannon. Yep, a gin zing or a Johnny Ginger will get breakfast off to a jolly good start. Now I certainly let the crew know I was going to kick off with my ambition to start off with a cocktail and then work my way through the list. So here we go, a quick snifter of the Johnny Ginger, although it was only gone 9:51 in the morning. Followed by that, I was going to check out both types of champagne in the wine cellar, both whites, both reds, and then move on to the port. The Johnny Ginger itself is a premium whiskey with orange juice and ginger ale, ice and a slice. Then the promised starter before the main course or the snack. This is an exotic fruit bruschetta, basically a few slices of fruit on a stick. There was also some sushi loaded as an alternative. Next, the crew came around and asked if I'd like my nuts warmed as they mixed up my cocktail, so I could investigate the cocktail tray, ready for making a serious indent into the spirits on board. The seat itself, it comes with some fairly basic controls. There's also a light for attracting attention when you're reading the various volumes of the menus and drink selection. Over the coast of Wales now, and about to begin a descent into Ireland. So just time for the first of many, many glasses of champagne, which I had to taste to ensure it was of the finest quality, and as soon as it was uncorked, just as we head over Cork in Ireland. There is a meal service served on both legs, however there's just a welcome drink with warm nuts followed by a starter on the London City to Shannon section, which lasts about an hour. It was tasty but really didn't hit the spot. I was glad I'd had breakfast beforehand in the bar. Then the main meal and afternoon tea is served on the Shannon to New York JFK section, and with a total of 3 cabin crew looking after only 8 passengers, they seemed almost desperately willing to please. Just look at that empty cabin. Now, Ireland's looking very green, a little bit damp and somewhat cold. It's only 4 degrees and we've gone back in time, back an hour, so it's still only 9 in the morning. It really took only 40 minutes or so before descending through the clouds into Shannon. There's lots of legroom, and with 8 passengers on board, it felt really rather like a private jet. Shannon itself remarkable for the number of redundant aircraft that are parked at the airfield, and also for the vast Lufthansa technical works. It's much cheaper to get work done in Ireland. At the gate in Shannon, we had a salubrious visitor ahead of us, a United States Air Force aircraft which had a notable security presence. Well, there we go. Time to go through US immigration. I'll be back in that seat in just a few minutes. Shannon Airport itself, a notably large, empty and really rather drafty airport. It's rather like a hangar with a few cafes stuck around the perimeter. Another security check and then US immigration. The guy at the desk asked me my route and then queried as to whether I was on some sort of crazy mileage run. I told him it was all about status actually, and he just nodded knowledgeably and let me on my way. The complete opposite to the experience I've had at JFK before now. This gave me the chance to spend a few minutes in British Airways lounge at Shannon, which is a rather unique lounge. You see, BA have got a small seating area by the gate where the aircraft is being refueled. All the furniture itself is second-hand. It's come from the old Milan lounge and was very much the old galleries style. Well, there's our A318 again. I was welcomed back on board with a water bottle and the amenity kit that was waiting at my seat, created by the White Company. The amenity kit itself consists of the usual toothbrush and paste, plus socks and an eye shade, and a small packet with tubes of spa moisturiser. Time for a second takeoff. No weight restrictions on this one. Very soon, running along the runway and then up over the wild west coast of Ireland. Now, each pair of seats shares 4 universal power outlets. 2 are built into the central divider and face away from the seats a little below knee height. There are also small lights built into the headrest. Just as an aside, I was amused that the crew commented that there would be no hold luggage again. It seems no one ever checks in a bag for this flight, but why would you when you can pretty much take on board what you want to into the cabin? The in-flight entertainment was also loaded. I say loaded because it isn't, as you would normally expect, in the seatbacks with a seatback TV screen. Oh no, not on this flight, nope. Instead, the crew have tablets that they hand out to the passengers. They don't have a load of content, but there are a fair few new films which are welcome. The noise-cancelling headphones are also pretty good, but most crucially on this flight, the bar was open from the second we hit the cruise. Back onto the wine list, and after my nuts have been warmed for a second time, I wanted to check out some alternatives, including a gin fizz. Then onto the champagne and a Kir Royale. This is very much British Airways' signature drink for the front of the plane. A little bit tart for my liking, but that's very much a first world problem, or rather a first class club world problem. The meal service began, again, and I started off with a fresh seasonal salad. However, it was a pretty chilly morning, so I quickly moved on to the cauliflower and almond soup, which was lovely and had lots of flavour. I do like the rolls BA serve on these services. They come with 3 types of bread in a silver basket, which looks pretty classy. For the main, I went for Welsh lamb cutlet with braised lamb shoulder and polenta au gratin grilled vegetables. Lots of flavour there, and great with a splash of red wine. All the while, the in-flight entertainment played on the iPad and the crew beetled around refilling my glass. Dessert next, and the mango creme fraiche. It was absolutely brilliant. I then swapped onto the claret and asked if I could try the cheese board. Cheese included Wookey Hole cave-aged cheddar, Sussex camembert and Oxford blue cheese, along with apple and pear chutney. It was all washed down with a glass of port. Normally BA only serve a pudding or cheese, but with so few passengers the crew didn't mind me trying both. I was determined to try one of British Airways' special Brewdog Speedbird 100 ales. Built from the ground up for British Airways to celebrate their centenary, this IPA is as golden amber as a transatlantic sunrise. It's specifically brewed to work perfectly in the air and adapt to the reduction in taste and smell sensitivities at high altitudes. Now by this time I was getting just a little bit tired as a newt in fact, so I tried out the reclining seat. It was great, inching back so I could watch the icebergs out of the window. But I was determined not to sleep, and why would I? Because there were cocktails, including a cranberry blush with vodka, orange and cranberry, plus a dash of spritz. A couple of hours before landing, we were offered afternoon tea. Options were sandwiches or traditional ploughmans, both served with lemon and date scones. Now I went for the ploughmans. It had Wiltshire gammon ham, Cropwell bacon, Stilton cheese, a Scotch egg, Suffolk salami and chutney. It was fantastic. Equally good, the scones with dollops of clotted cream and strawberry jam. Next I moved on to the other champagne on the wine list, this time the rosé, to celebrate passing into American airspace. All too soon we were descending towards New York JFK Airport, or Idlewild as I still like to bemuse the crew by calling it, which called for yet another cocktail, Johnny Ginger this time. Amazing, they were going down very nicely, and very quickly. And down there, that's Newfoundland. Just time for another couple of bottles of wine, and then we were landing. Now, flight number BA1 used to be one of a pair of Concorde flights, however that was retired in 2003. By 2007, it was relaunched by British Airways in response to a sudden trend for all business class flights from European airlines. Look at them, Lufthansa and Swiss. They operated business class flights to JFK, along with the very briefly existing airlines EOS and MaxJet. Now the idea, and it seemed like a good one at the time, was that with so many financial companies in Docklands and the square mile, flying people to Wall Street and back, they wouldn't want to go to Heathrow. That's a good hour away to the west. Instead, they could hop on a flight at very short notice from just a few minutes away. Indeed, many would spend an hour at their desk in the morning, run to the airport, and thanks to the time difference, still be able to spend a late afternoon in New York. Now on landing, we walked straight out of the aircraft and into the terminal. A really unusual experience and one that makes this journey worthwhile. None of that hanging about for hours at immigration nonsense. So, the bottom line, is this flight worth it? Well, yes, I've got to say so, if only for the personal jet experience, but also for the unusual almost one-to-one attention of the cabin crew. The stop in Shannon is a bit of a pain, but it makes up for it by not having to hang around in a queue at immigration. I love this flight, and there are very few flights I can say that about.